This is hype though. This is the most hype that I felt since the announcement of the DLC, I think, today watching this footage, because the kinds of things that are going down in this video and these videos are absolutely insane. Okay, 2 legacy dungeons right off the bat. That's pretty huge. I'm gonna probably skip through some of this because I want to look for stuff that's relevant to PvP. Like, the only thought I have when I see those gravestones is, can my character be stopped by them? I don't care if they're illusory. Like, that's the only thing I care about. Like, if I'm running away from a gank, are those fucking gravestones gonna make it so I can't move in the way I want to when I'm escaping the gank? Only thing I care about. It's cool that they look pretty, but let's get real, people. All of this footage is the stock From Software footage that they released. None of this is what these content creators did, so a lot of the footage is repeated, but they all do various descriptions and go in depth on different parts of their short time playing the game.
Here's the dialogue you just heard.
Come on, Vaati. I can type as fast as NPCs talk? Bruh, is that a flex? Nah. No one plays the game like that. Nobody RP walks through the entire game. Okay, this looks disgusting. Okay, let's talk about this spell. And it has an explosion at the end of it. This thing is fucking crazy. Okay, we'll back it up a little bit. Let's go back and see it again. Okay, it's got kind of a long cast time, but it has several explosions. Delayed explosions. Okay, a little bit of delay. Hitbox. Is it pulling them in? I can't even really tell. Yeah, it pulls them back. It's a gravity spell that has multiple ticks and explodes outward. That looks insane for area control and area denial and invasions, which is a very important thing. Okay, so let's check this out. Okay, we want to read about the dry leaf guys. The teachings of a group of spiritual seekers known as the Dry Leaf Sect, revealed only to those of worthy valor and character. The practice of this martial art marks the dawn of an ascetic's journey, pinnacle of Dane's footwork. Who is Dane? Okay, so they've got a dog who has fancy footwork, and they copied it. And I think the part about being an ascetic is because you don't actually have a weapon. But clearly they're one-handed here. Nope, they go to two-handed there, see? And now, I know Frosty knows which moves these are. I think maybe that's an R1 chain, and that's the R2. Without poise, I don't see that being that good in PvP. This is something that in these trailers, in this content, looking at these cool weapons and showing us this stock From Software footage, there's a lot of movement-based Ash of Wars, weapon spells, things that send you flying through the air. I'm not sure how good those are going to be. I mean, yes, having forward momentum is great, but I'm not sure if leaping into the air multiple times during an attack chain is necessarily that beneficial, because that seems to give you a really long recovery. I mean, I think you're going to get just smacked out of this. Okay, yeah, like that. Okay. Like, how long is the recovery going to be for that? It seems pretty reactable too. So there's a question. Do these true combo into each other? Do some of the kicks true combo into the punches? Do these chain together? How does it work with Endure? It's different than a jump attack. You have control over the way the jump attack launches, the angle at which you're attempting to land at, all of that stuff. Those seem a little crazy. They'll certainly be fun, and everybody loves movement-based Ash of Wars and spells. I mean, think about the popularity of something like Bloodhound Finesse. Not only is Bloodhound Fang weapon really good, but people just love that Ash War. It makes them feel cool. You do a backflip, you disappear, you shoot forward and swipe your sword out in a massive arc. That's fucking cool. And people are gonna use these cool, sweet ass weapons, not only in ganks, but just in PvE, and that stuff's gonna be everywhere. And I think it's going to be pretty punishable, just like Bloodhound Fang is very punishable, just like Bloodhound Finesse is punishable. You can backstab that, you can parry it. A lot of these moves look like they might be a little too predictable to use. That's just my first reaction, though, so we'll see. Fucking Beast Claws, gamers. That sounds cool. Oh my god. See, that's what I'm talking about. Oh, wow. This one's weird, though. It looks really unpredictable. It kind of reminds me of, like, Eleanor's Pole Blade, Ash of War, where the movement is really erratic. Okay, so you dash forward, and then you do a jump. Can you backstab that jump, I wonder? Another jump. So 2 jumps, one jump with 1 hit, then a 2-hit follow-up. So this is crazy. This is a whole weapon type, Beast Claws. It makes me think like kind of how claws are in the base game. There's not that many of them. I think that this weapon probably won't have that many iterations. 2 hits. Okay, and then that like claw forward. I have no idea how this is going to be in PvP. You see what I'm saying though, okay? So like imagine we're playing PvP, like say we're playing a duel, okay? And one player is doing fucking this shit. Jump forward, jump, attack, jump, roll to the side, jump, hit, jump. And the other guy is doing this shit, right? The other guy's going, yeah. Oh, double hit, and then big crazy kick. I mean, the gamers are just going to be flying around, not hitting each other. I'm curious about what the tracking will be for these. Wild. I don't know if having all of these like flippy movesets is beneficial to the base PvP. It seems to me like that could create some really weird issues, and I don't know. Like, talk about being discouraged to just like square up and use your regular movesets. Everybody's going to be jumping, backflipping. There's a lot of that. Like, there's a lot of that in this DLC. There's the reverse curse swords. We're going to see more of it. All of the different movement-based Ashes of War and the movesets that give you all sorts of crazy forward momentum. It's going to be interesting. A bow that makes arrows shoot skull emojis. I'm wondering if that will work for all of the arrows on the bow, or if you'll also need certain arrows for the bow. Could be powerful, though. And just in general, I mean, they're pushing the line. They're pushing the line on movements and you know, crazy movement-based animations. They're pushing the line on projectiles, right? Like, what's better than a projectile out of a weapon like a bow? How about a projectile that shoots a ton fucking more projectiles, like a lot more projectiles for one, you know, kind of like Rain of Arrows is, but then now they're gonna have all of these weapons just shooting, you know, spam the Smith script weapons, whipping throwing daggers. It's gonna be wild, insane looking. I didn't mention it before. Okay, yeah. So this is the Perfume weapon, one of them. There's similarly to the Beast Claw, I don't anticipate there will be very many of these. It seems like something that's very niche and looks like a lot of fun, but I'm not expecting there's going to be too many different variety of these. But that said, this moveset looks totally sick and really, really cool. That's obviously an R1 chain, but buyer beware on these sorts of things. A lot of the time, movesets like this can get a bit repetitive. I mean, it looks flashy, but yeah, I mean, that's pretty reactable. You're obviously not going to just spam the R1 chain in PvP, but I'm guessing that deals a lot of poise damage and a lot of damage, and it has pretty good range. That has really good range, and that's the kind of thing that you could really, really use while free aiming and unlocked fighting. It could be powerful against ganks, and that's something important to keep in mind too. For every single powerful option that the DLC is going to add to the ganker's arsenal. You get to use them as invaders, right? That's the thing that we have to keep in mind with the broken things. They're not one-sided, but obviously being outnumbered. Okay, so it's tough. Like, you know, what if two people are spamming this at you? That has such a huge area of effect. I gotta wonder if this is, someone was saying this is probably its Ash of War. That's what I think. I think this is the Ash because that's got to have an FP cost, right? That's way too good. That's way too many hitboxes. That's just ridiculous. And then that, people are speculating that that move is the running R2. Perfume. Perfume, wake up. Spin! Man, you're going to have to get really far away to not get hit by that. It's super duper 360 degrees spark aromatic. That's kind of disgusting. We have 8 new weapon types, over 100 weapons in the DLC. There's over 400 weapons in the base game. So they're going to be adding about 25% of the weapons that we already have. Quite a substantial amount, especially considering that a lot of these seem to have unique movesets, unique Ash of War, different movement-based things, like even within weapon classes, within these smaller weapon classes that they're introducing, the movesets are going to have a lot of variety, right? We already know that just from watching this footage. So we have not seen the Great Katana. We've seen the Dry Leaf, but only a very, very small amount. Just 1 or 2 moves from it. And we don't know how that will manifest. It's something where it's like it's an art. You know, well, how can you equip an art? So maybe it's like you equip different scrolls or there will be items for changing the moveset slightly, maybe. I don't know. I'm really curious to see how that'll be implemented. Throwing weapons. Okay, well, this is, now I'm confused. So there's a class of weapons that are throwing weapons, new weapon class, but there's also all of these weapons, the Smith script weapons that you can throw, which are from the other weapon classes from the base game. Is that correct? I'm not sure. We'll see if they can clarify that for us. Okay, thrusting shields. That's this shield that this guy is holding, a thrusting shield. So, does anybody know if that is an Ash of War? It must be an Ash of War, right?
Had a way harder time.
Is this...
It took me 3 or 4 attempts.
That just looks like the regular twin blade from the base game. Am I wrong? Is that just the regular twin blade from the base game? So that would confirm it's an Ash of War. Okay, that looks cool. Look at the quickness of the frames from the weapon recovery to the block animation. Big Chungus. Okay, that looks like a good attack. It's actually similar to the power stance Curve Sword jumping L1, but it only has 4 hitboxes, not 8 or whatever. Why? I mean, this person never dodges? Okay, that's got to be some kind of... Is that the backstep attack? No, that's got to be like the R2. Right? Yeah, charged R2. Cool running attack. Those look fun, although honestly, that looked cool. Okay, that left movement, you can use that to strafe, and you can use that in PvP, I'm sure. These look cool. The moveset animations don't look that vastly different from paired curve swords, but I'm fine with that. It'll add some variety and some cool movesets. Yeah, let's hear this.
Greatsword class.
Light greatsword.
Greatsword in particular is called Milady.
It's called Milady? That's cringe. What the fuck? Oh, the guard counter has 3 hits?
I guess light greatswords basically then are weapons with the length of a greatsword.
Emphasis on length. Okay, so first of all, I mean, this looks fucking sweet, but that's a stance? I wonder how quick you can attack after entering the stance, because that doesn't look like... interesting.
Okay, these new
Damn, that's fucking badass. That does look cool. Light greatsword. It reminds me of heavy thrusting sword, kind of. Oh, what the hell? Like every move is a double slash. Look at all those hitboxes you're throwing out. They're pretty fast. It makes me wonder, is some of that stuff going to true combo together? Because that could be pretty dangerous, but it looks like, if we go back here, watch this again, they're two-handing it. So, are these moves all going to have hyper armor? They're using the stance moves, though, not the regular R1 and R2 chain. Yeah. Okay, that's like, I don't know if that's 2 or 3 inputs or 4. Probably 2. It really locks you into that animation, that attack animation for a long, long time. This enchantment is, or this sorcery is just whatever. There's a lot of stuff like that. Okay, that's cool. And then you do a thrust at the end. Oh my god. I can't wait to, I mean, yeah, this is going to be popular. People are going to love this. Oh! 1, 2, 3, 4, and then bam, stab, 3. Oh, that time they did 2 R1s. That looks crazy. If you get hyper armor doing that, it's over. What is going to be better than that? Nothing. That looks strong. Okay, yeah, so we know that the Scadutree fragments are the leveling system. So what those do is they allow you to have more damage or less damage done. So increasing overall damage and overall defense. Huge red flag with these. Is this going to work in PvP? I'm guessing not, because they have separate PvP and PvE scaling now, so I don't see why you can't just have the same damage scaling from players and not account the Scadutree fragments that they have. This picture, though, here is a pretty good indicator of the different armors that we're going to be able to get in the game, in the DLC. All of these NPCs are wearing armor that you'll be able to acquire somehow. So, with that said, if you like some of this armor, good on you. If you don't, we'll see how much more there is other than this. There will probably be some that drop from enemies and such, but this looks like a pretty good good selection. Okay, so what is this? Found near tree roots everywhere in the realm of shadow, serves as a primitive catalyst, making it suitable for processing using sorceries, incantations, and the like. What does that mean? That sounds to me, and I could be wrong here, but that sounds to me like a new crafting system of some kind. Like either a sorcery or an incantation that crafts items, like the item crafting, but then maybe you don't need, well, I guess you still need an item because you need this thing. I don't know. Or a crafting system for spells? That doesn't sound right. I don't know. That is weird. Let's hear if Vaati says anything about it.
From items he sold on screen. Notably, there was not resin and a sealed mesmerfire grease.
Okay, mesmerfire grease. Okay, I have something to say about this. It annoys me that the really cool new weapon buff that they have... By the way, this is Godfrey, isn't it? It's kind of cool. The new weapon buff that they have is a fire buff. Okay, so they center the entire DLC, the main boss, all of his sick weapons, his spells, even his lube, and they're all fire. And what is the worst damage type and the worst infusion in the game? It's fire, because of the damage debuff that results from being in water and rain. And also, it's amusing because in the first area you saw it's raining. It looks like it's perpetually raining in the DLC. And then they give you a sick fire buff. Okay, we're probably not going to be using this one, but we'll see how it's different than other buffs. Current greases. That looks cool. This guy's armor, this looks like a colossal. Yeah? New Uggs? Look at that thing. Look at the pommel and all of this detailing. That looks cool. New Uggs? New Uggs, baby? Let's go. New Uggs, let's go.
They essentially never stop attacking.
This guy's got the horns. Kind of reminiscent of an omen, but it's a piece of armor, obviously.
So clearly you can find
Flings a magic nail. Okay, so in other words, it's just glintstone pebble or swift glintstone shard, right? I mean, how are these different than the things that we have now? We're gonna find this out soon, but I'm doing this for posterity's sake, okay? Dude, I swear PvEers are all the same. They're like, I went all the way into Dex to use my katana. Smith script. Get with it. Smith script. Smith script hammer. Yeet it at ya, says Vaati. Vaati says, yeet the hammer. I'm wondering how that works. So, do you catch it? Is it like a boomerang?
incredible. It feels so good.
Do you catch the Smith script hammer when it comes back? Is it like a boomerang, or is it something where it just teleports back to you and appears in your hands? I'm wondering what happens, like if I'm in the recovery after I throw it and I get hit and I'm in hit stun, what happens to the hammer? But in spite of my questions about the actual function and the animations, I suspect that this thing's good in PvE. I think that these throwing weapons, Smith script, or maybe whatever the throwing weapon class is, if it's a new weapon class, or if it's just these throwing weapons, I think they're going to be good because, as we know, I mean, and from what Vaati's saying, this hammer does a lot of damage when you throw it. And having high damage projectiles are, in a way, what Elden Ring PvP is all about.
I also love that they're giving special treatment to these older weapon categories, and I think hammer carried me through all of Castle Ensis.
People and their level 400 quality builds. Listen, people are going to be going through this at such high level. We're all going to need to have max level bracket invaders. It's going to be a nightmare. You'll see. Okay, so here he talks about this twin blade when two-handing a straight sword engraved with a golden flame. So this is like a twin blade that when you two-hand it turns into a split moveset or into a power stance moveset. Sounds really cool, and it is also my impression, and I haven't heard anybody say this, but it's my impression that this special weapon will scale with int and faith, which will give int faith users exactly one more weapon to use in their kit, thus doubling the number of weapons that they have available to them and that are useful in PvP from 1 to 2. So congratulations, Faith Int bros. Sounds super sweet though. Ronaldo with a twin blade could be good. If you get the moon and not the swords, you're crazy. So does Rolana's headpiece give you int and faith? The way Ronaldo's banana hat gives you 3 int? Do you get like 1 int and 1 faith or something? Increasing stance attacks. Everybody, your first reaction to this is, wow, another thing to add 10% more damage to Moonveil. And yes, that is the case, and that will be annoying. It will make unsheath better too, and unsheath has completely unfair damage as it is. But something to know is that this is coming in the DLC. There's going to be a variety of new weapons that have stances, I'm sure. New stance weapons, new types of stances, and so this is something that will complement new builds that come from the new DLC weapons. I think that sounds pretty interesting. I think that this will probably be a staple talisman on certain builds.
Unlocks a perfect block mechanic in Elden Ring, whereby you probably take no stamina damage if you time your block perfectly with an enemy's attacks.
Okay, so there's some debate as to whether this is something that just makes guard countering better, or if it actually has some sort of stamina reducing effect if you block within a certain frame window, substantially reducing or eliminating stamina damage from incoming attacks when you're holding up a shield. This could be very good, and I actually think that this gives me a little bit of hope for the PvP. Now, maybe this will be too good in the hands of really cracked players. Granted, it's a tier, okay, so it runs out. There's a time limit on it. But something that I was considering with this that seems really good, honestly, is that it could be very, very helpful in invasions against group projectile spam, Beast Claw plus Double Moon plus Perfumer weapon Ash War gank. A lot of stuff in the game that is currently toxic in ganks, and the stuff that I anticipate will be toxic after the DLC will be projectiles, more projectile spam, giving wizards more access to new projectiles, different projectile weapons, different unique bows. You name it, they're adding it. It seems like they're taking the gloves off when it comes to, sort of like the game was measured before, but there's there really doesn't seem to be any discipline in terms of the way that they're controlling the animations or thinking about the animations relate to each other in PvP. That's my impression right now. And that is going to be problematic, especially in a gank, adding just more projectiles, especially projectiles that don't cost FP. I mean, FP is already ridiculous. It's already too easy to spam spells, especially as you get towards higher levels. If anybody is watching this and you think that it is more fun to do PvP or do invasions at like level 150 or 200 or above than it is to do like 90 to 125, you are kidding yourself, because the way that ganks can basically perpetually kill any invader that comes into their world is just by having so much ridiculous amounts of FP. And it's still a resource in spite of that. Even when they come loaded up with huge FP bars, it's still limited. But adding in projectiles that don't cost FP seems like a really dangerous thing, especially for invaders. So having an option to block that stuff, perfect block, whatever you want to call it, but to block it and not use stamina so that you can conserve stamina to run, roll, counterattack, whatever it is, seems very good. So I honestly think that if this physic tier does what Vaati says it does, I think that this could be competitive and maybe even a staple in PvP and on invader builds, depending on how it functions and how well it works. That's just my thought. Okay, so he says deadly poison perfume bottle. So that's a perfume weapon.
As well as some other weapons besides.
So I'm guessing that's not the perfume bottle that we saw that had the sparks coming out of it. It's a different one that builds up poison and status. Could also be very cool, probably scales with arcane. So these these perfume weapons could be very cool swaps on certain builds. I mean, if each build has one that scales well with it, you can use it for, area of effect or area denial, turn and burn. Might be a fun swap.
You could hear him screaming when I killed him. Confirmed that.
Okay, so there's going to be a bunch more dragon spells. That's another thing on top of the perfume weapons, the double moon, the throwing weapons, the projectile spam, people being able to perfect block everything. You're also going to have who knows how many additional dragon spells to deal with. So that also might be an annoying pain in the ass. I know they already have Endure. I think that they're going to need to have Endure +2 or double Endure. Perfect Endure. Something. We're going to need something to counter all this spam.
Thing is that there's an invader. Really cool. They apparently let
They're
you
cool.
teleport around while you're attacking with them. But
see, that's the thing about the perspective of people like Vaati Vidya. Not that he's wrong, and he's beautiful. He has a sultry voice. He's amazing, and thank you for the content which you explicitly gave us permission to use. But you hear, oh yeah, they make you teleport around. That sounds super sweet. That sounds horrible. That sounds horrible for PvP. That is not what we want. We do not want multiple more teleportation iframe Ash of Wars in the game. It will make the game terrible and unplayable. People are gonna throw this game in the garbage after a couple months if the PvP is just complete circus of non-stop, you know, Bloodhound Step 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, and 5.0, and Dynast Finesse 2, 3, and 4. It's gonna be... I'm a little bit concerned about the way that people are describing some of these weapons and movesets and the, you know, very diverse animations that we're going to be seeing, but I don't know if those are going to be that beneficial. I don't know. I don't think they're going to make the PvP better. We'll see. Yeah, I think some of the stuff that people like and want to use won't be that great. Like, I don't know if that light greatsword looks good at all. It looks cool and fun, but I don't know if it looks good. But some of the stuff, I think people are sleeping a little bit on how awful it's going to be to fight against a group that has some of this stuff.
On his journey.
And yeah, the gank of the throwing knives, like cookbook. Yeah. Okay. So a record of crafting techniques of the greater potentate haunted. Are you a potentate, cause? Do you have the super smooth hands, cause? Haunted by the grotesque practice of his village of birth, he stuffed great pots with all manner of things. So I'm guessing that maybe there will only be one cookbook for these hefty crack pots, and that might be nice to just get one and then you unlock all the recipes. I'm guessing Fire Spark Perfume Bottle is the weapon that they're using earlier in the From Software footage. Oh, and that's going to be a powerful one. I mean, we all know how good Spark Aromatic was, especially at low levels, because of the way that it scales and the flat damage that it does. If the weapons are somewhat similar, it's going to be ridiculous. But I don't actually see the weapons being similar. The scaling will be more like a weapon and less like a consumable, I'm guessing. Okay, so I watched these more or less today, so I might skip through this one a little bit, but Oro does have obviously much more of a connection to the PvP scene than Vaati, so I'm assuming that he may consider that in some of his commentary, but I'm not really sure. Yeah, no, that's true. Like, it doesn't seem like there's anyone who just released the From Software footage uncut, which would be really interesting. What is this? A light beam? Oh, okay.
Brand new menu options, which ended up being the new damage scaling feature.
Oh, what the fuck? That looks ridiculous. What was that thing that came out of the guy's hand? Is like a consumable, or Frosty was saying maybe it's a tool that you use. That crossbow looks so fucking cool too. Yeah, but the delayed hitbox is pretty good. What up, Abyss? Yeah, I mean, if you like PvP, you are fucked. Like, yeah, we are totally fucked. But the PvE looks fun if you like the PvE. Yeah, we will, and they'll fix some of it. And I don't know, honestly, how it could be much worse than it is. Now, I think that there's just going to be a lot of similar situations and invasions just with new projectiles that people are spamming in new L2s.
Far in the DLC.
It's so funny how all this From Software footage, everybody's like edge walking, RP walking around. Nobody fucking plays the game like that. It's hilarious. Okay, so the throwing daggers are different than the Smith script weapons, which is interesting. Okay, so see, now he just confused me. He said the Smith script dagger was the throwing blade. Well, so is throwing blade a new class, or is it just one weapon in the... What the hell? Okay, whatever. I guess we'll find out, but that's confused. I feel like I'm getting mixed information on that.
Putting that I found a weapon with a completely new moveset, even though it had an old weapon type, which means that there might be even more unique weapons.
That is a good point by Oro, and that's something that I really have wanted from the DLC, is more weapons from existing weapon classes that have unique movesets. Think something like the tree spear, or there's a lot of examples of it, but not that many, right? Or like Carrion Knight Sword, or McKellen Sword, stuff like that. Weapons that have unique moves that give you an incentive to try them out, and they may be more optimal than other weapons in those classes based on that moveset. I think that that's a really cool design feature and a really good way to add even more variety into the game.
I was told there are over 100 new weapons in the DLC.
Yeah, so that's a 25% increase on weapons, slightly more.
Head-up vacuum slice with a follow-up slash that had insane forward momentum.
Speedy vacuum slice with like a chasing slice from Sekiro. That sounds good. And having more Ash rewarded follow-up is good. I think that also gives moveset diversity and just adds different playability to different weapons.
And realized that the build they gave me only had 50 vigor.
Not even From Software knows how to level vigor. That's important, though. I think it's interesting. The idea that the DLC is very, very difficult and scales towards like 150, 200. That makes me concerned about the activity in the DLC for lower level invaders. So I don't know. I mean, obviously 125 you can invade up to 150, so maybe that's not that big of a concern. But yeah, I mean, we all might end up having to have level 200 invaders for the DLC. Yeah, Presidente, I do like that the DLC is going to be harder, and it should be, and I also like that they have ways to make it easier for people who suck or don't have the time to get good. But I don't know. I'm wondering how that's going to affect the invasion activity.
And well-pickled turtle.
I think they care, but
Stronger versions of their base game counterparts.
the problem is, it's not that they don't care, is the work that's required to go into it worth it to them? And maybe it is, and maybe it isn't.
Defeating him grants you his remembrance and his massive lion head helm. The lion helm granted 2 strength and 2 dexterity to its wearer.
What? I didn't hear that. A helm that gives you 2 strength and 2 dex, is there a drawback? That is fucking good. Wow.
The Divine Beast Remembrance lets you choose between a talisman or an Ash of War. It's called Storm, which I'm assuming means Ashes of War, like Storm.
So, a talisman that buffs your Storm Ashes of War, those needed to be buffed. And Hoarfrost Stomp, number 2? That's something I don't think anybody asked for, is more Hoarfrost Stomp. Yeah, no, this boosting Storm Ashes of War sounds really broken, and a new Hoarfrost Stomp seems really strange. I mean, didn't they nerf the first one, and then they just make a new one that's more powerful, and whatever. That's a weird choice. But yeah, it doesn't sound that cool to just have new, like, okay, let's have another Hoarfrost Stomp. Like, that's, people don't even really use that much. It's okay in duels. Like, if you're in a duel in a real arena that's a small arena, it can be good, but it's not very strong in invasions. Yeah, these creators got me really hyped for this. This is gonna be so fun. There's so much new stuff that we're gonna get to play around with.
As much as the normal imps. I received his weapon, Death Knight's twin axe. Insane weapon art. Started with a teleport, followed by a spinning slash that had absolutely batshit movement.
Okay, so see, like, that doesn't sound cool, like, or good. I'm not down with that. That sounds completely busted and not fun to play against at all. A teleport with a spinning slash at the end of it? Like, are you fucking kidding me? That's just so stupid. I don't think we're getting 6 players in Invasions, but my hope, this is my hope, is that they give us some new Coliseum arenas so that we can play 6-player Elden Ring in some areas that aren't just a gigantic flat circle. We shall see on that, though. That might just be cope. That's so funny. Miyazaki got mad because the red space is a spinning splash spam, so he made a thing to directly teleport. That's right. He knows. I mean, yeah, the one invader that ever killed Miyazaki's gank space spinning slash properly.
I was told to set my controller down, which is probably the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. It came out.
What if you're like, they're like, set your controller down. You're like, no, I'm going to keep playing. And then Miyazaki comes and personally beats your ass with a baseball bat. You can't have free information. It looks amazing. I mean, it looks just absolutely stunning. The designs are, you know, as we've come to expect from software, just top notch in terms of the weapon designs, the animations. I mean, they're clearly really pushing the kinds of animations, the complexity of the movements and the movesets in the DLC, which I really like and can appreciate. And I'm excited to use some of that stuff, no doubt. And as a PvE experience, this looks absolutely top notch and looks like I'm so excited to play this and just like run around and pick stuff up. But I will say that, and this was to be expected, they were always going to, the DLC is always going to be additive. It's not like they're going to take stuff away or only give us stuff that already existed. There's going to be new stuff. They're going to experiment, okay? And they will have patches for this stuff when it imbalances the PvP, but I will say that a lot of the new things don't seem like they were designed with PvP in mind. I will say that. And that to me is a little bit of a concern because the way that they patched the game so far, it's decent. Obviously 1.10 has a lot of issues with hyper armor in particular, but we as a community right now have the best version of Elden Ring PvP that we have ever had. I think it's the most balanced it's ever been in spite of some of the issues. But at the same time, that won't really matter after this comes out. And they're going to need to try to bring all of the old stuff and all of the new stuff in line with each other. It's going to be difficult to balance all of that. I know that I often get frustrated by balance issues in this game. I mean, who doesn't? But I will say, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fucking chaotic. We're going to get to use all of the same broken stuff that is getting used against us by ganks. It's just that, as usual, we'll have to use it in a 1v2 or 1v3 setting, and we'll have to be much smarter, more well-prepared, have better reactions, more patience, more battle planning, and more execution than our opponents, because that's what's required to be a good invader. But I think that some of this stuff will be really, really helpful in invasions. In particular, one of my big thoughts is that if the physique works the way that people have said that it works, where it's like a perfect block physique, where certain timings make it so that you can block and attack without taking any stamina damage, that seems very good. And that could be a very, very useful thing in invasions, kind of in the way people use the light roll physic tier. It gives you a defensive option. Now obviously opening is in most every invader's physic, and maybe that's just the best one, and this weird guard tier won't eke that out. But I'm curious about that. I think there's definitely some potential that has for being a new defensive tool for invaders to help counter all of this fucking cheese. Like, look at all this stuff, the bear claw, we've got double moons coming down, reverse curve sword, perfume bottles, all sorts of stuff. Mercy Sandy, future from Soft Games, definitely taking some influence from this DLC learning they have got in terms of difficulty balance and even PvP. Who knows? Yes, and thank you for saying that. That is 100% what I believe, and I think that no matter what happens with Elden Ring PvP, and it may already be over, folks, it may already be over, but even if it's not, no matter what happens with Elden Ring PvP in the future, balance, imbalance, good or bad, maybe the popularity of the PvP will increase after the DLC comes out. Maybe it won't. Maybe it will dramatically decline because it's so ruined. I hope that it expands and gets more players. But regardless of all of that, one thing that we do know is that Elden Ring is not the last PvP game that From Software will make. We know that Miyazaki likes PvP. He likes the idea of having PvP in his games. Armored Core had PvP. It wasn't the most robust or balanced, but it was clearly something that they focused on at least a little bit in the design. And so I think that you're right, that we have a lot to look forward to as fans of this company and as people who enjoy the basic fundamentals of the gameplay and the engine and the idea of having a fully three-dimensional fighting game that has environments and has asymmetrical PvP, all of those facets that we really love about the game. They will push these ideas further and refine them and improve them even more in further games and in further generations. And I really hope that they find a way, maybe they get some servers, do something. I hope that they make like a more dedicated, like maybe not a fighting game exactly, but a fighting type game, a more dedicated PvP game someday, because that would give them an opportunity to show off some of their designs in a multiplayer game and focus on balancing it with fewer working parts. I think that would be really interesting. But as it stands, we can look forward to glitches, we can look forward to ganks, spamming throwing daggers, we can look forward to all sorts of ridiculous spammy sorceries and incantations, new perfumes, all of that stuff. Machine gun crossbow, whatever you want, they got it. New dragon incantations as well. Was by no means exhaustive here. There's a lot to consume and a lot more content that I didn't go over today, but I think that that's probably a good stopping point for me for now. I just want to do some quick reaction. Like greatsword stance-based moves looks incredible and well balanced for PvP. Yeah, I think that one looks good, and I hope that it is good. Because stuff like that is like a weapon-based moveset, and that's what we, in my opinion, need more of, not necessarily more projectiles and more ways to spam down invaders. But we'll see. It'll be interesting, and I'm excited. So yeah, thank you all again